In the late 1990s, one of the most controversial deals in automotive history took place that would decide the fate of perhaps the world's most premier car marques, Rolls-Royce and Bentley, leading to a complex and convoluted bidding war between two of Germany's most important car-building groups, BMW and Volkswagen. Rolls-Royce had existed in its original incarnation since its foundation in 1904 up until February 1971. With the company not only being a maker of luxurious cars, but also a major developer of aerospace engines that powered the likes of the Spitfire, Concorde and the Vickers VC-10, while along the way it was also able to procure Bentley in 1931, following that company's collapse in the wake of the Great Depression, thus making it a shadow marque for entry-level luxury versions of Rolls-Royce's mainstream models. However, in the mid-1960s, Rolls-Royce had contractually shackled itself to the highly innovative but extremely complicated RB211 engine, which would form the primary power plant of the Lockheed L-1011 TriStar wide-body airliner, with British Minister of Technology Tony Benn having encouraged Rolls-Royce to bid for the sole engine provider, which it would achieve during June 1967. Sadly, the development of the RB211 was far more costly and difficult than Rolls-Royce had originally supposed, and any attempt to back out of the deal with Lockheed would have led to ruinous legal consequences over breach of contract, with Rolls-Royce, after several government-provided cash subsidies, recognizing it had no financial assets left to bring the engine to fruition, and thus voluntarily entered receivership on February 4, 1971. In light of this, the Rolls-Royce company would be split, with the luxury automotive division, that included Bentley, being considered financially solvent, and thus could be spun off as an independent company following a full audit by the official receiver, while the Rolls-Royce Engine Company was nationalised by the government of Prime Minister Edward Heath and eventually revitalised as a major player of jet engine manufacturing. Rolls-Royce Motorcars Limited, as established in 1973, would see continued success throughout the 1970s with the likes of the Silver Shadow and the Corniche, as well as the low-production but exclusive Phantom 6, and the controversial though contemporary Camargue two-door saloon, which adopted Italian styling as penned by the Carrozzeria Pininfarina, the first mainstream Rolls-Royce to be designed by a foreign styling house. Unfortunately, Rolls-Royce's winning streak would not last, and in 1979 the company would suffer a catastrophic blow to its sales as a result of that year's oil crisis caused by the Iranian Revolution, during which the sale of luxury cars saw a precipitous fall as a global recession crippled the marketplace, while at the same time, the Rolls-Royce brand was starting to suffer an image problem as these beautifully styled cars began to look very outdated and flamboyant when compared to the more understated, squared-off designs of the era. With Rolls-Royce Motorcars facing financial ruin, it was purchased by Vickers plc, the last remaining element of the Vickers-Armstrong empire that had its own history stretching back to April 1867 and had dabbled in aviation, shipbuilding and steel, but by 1979 had been reduced to an automotive holding company and marine engineering contractor. Under the leadership of Vickers-appointed Rolls-Royce managing director David Plastow, every asset at Rolls-Royce's disposal was employed to revitalise its fortunes, including the long-neglected Bentley marque, that, by 1980, represented only 7% of total sales for the firm, with the likes of the Mulsanne Turbo and later Turbo R seeing Bentley's share of the company output increase to 41% by the end of the decade. While the SZ range of cars, including the Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit and Spur, together with various Bentley counterparts, would be commercially successful throughout the 1980s, come the 1990s, the protracted development of a replacement model for machines with underpinnings dating largely back to the preceding SY Silver Shadow range of 1965, meant the company was quickly losing relevance against the likes of the BMW 7 Series and the Mercedes S-Class, reflected through a sales plateau on the SZ range throughout the middle of the decade. With the SZ replacement project, dubbed SXB, and later coming to fruition as the Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph and Bentley Arnage, undergoing various revisions that delayed its launch year after year, it was evident that Rolls-Royce, in its current position, would not be able to sustain itself financially. Meanwhile, Vickers plc itself was losing relevance in its own markets outside the automotive industry, and thus in autumn 1997, they desperately sought to offload Rolls-Royce and its other automotive asset Cosworth Engineering as soon as possible to avoid their own collapse. Initially, Vickers entertained a purchase offer from BMW, primarily due to the German carmaker's existing technology supply agreement with Rolls-Royce, as signed in 1994, that granted the crew engineering teams access to BMW's componentry and body engineering resources, much of which had been integrated into later versions of the SZ range. This was further attested to by the fact that the upcoming Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph would incorporate the BMW M73 5.4-litre V12 engine from the 7 Series, as opposed to other offers such as the General Motors Northstar V8 from the Cadillac Eldorado and V8 and V12 units from Mercedes-Benz, while the Bentley Arnage would employ a twin-turbo version of BMW's 4.4-litre V8, thus meaning the German engines could be seamlessly integrated with items like transmission electronics and air conditioning controls without further development. However, while BMW was interested in Rolls-Royce, Audi AG, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Volkswagen Group, was simultaneously interested in purchasing Cosworth Engineering, but with Vickers seeking to divest its automotive interests, they would not agree to Audi's purchase offer of £120 million for Cosworth without also procuring Rolls-Royce alongside it. This, therefore, began a fierce bidding war between BMW and Volkswagen for the domination of Rolls-Royce and Bentley, though BMW was at a disadvantage, as with its acquisition of the severely loss-making Rover Group, the company was hemorrhaging money and could not afford to outbid Volkswagen to win over Rolls-Royce outright, while Vickers itself came under scrutiny from various shareholders for entertaining the notion of selling Rolls-Royce, as a cornerstone of the British motor industry, to a foreign buyer. Therefore, on June 12, 1998, it was announced that Volkswagen had won the bid for Rolls-Royce Motorcars with a £430 million cash bid, with the shareholders of Vickers plc voting overwhelmingly to accept an offer that was over £90 million more than BMW's final bid, with a total of 5.1 million shareholders voting in favour and only 109,000 against, the deal seeing Volkswagen shareholders enjoy a return of capital of 80 pence per share. However, Volkswagen's takeover bid was not universally accepted, with specific pushback coming from the Rolls-Royce engine company, as privatised in 1987, who owned the rights to the Rolls-Royce name, logo and the iconic Spirit of Ecstasy hood ornament, with the Rolls-Royce engine company being preferential to BMW's takeover bid due to their own aerospace dealings with the company, and thus threatened legal action to stop Volkswagen using the brand without paying a substantial fee. At the same time, BMW CEO Bernd Pichetsrieder announced that the supply of BMW engines and parts to Rolls-Royce and Bentley would be halted within a year, and thus presented not enough time for Volkswagen to develop a power unit dedicated for use inside the likes of the recently released Silver Seraph and Arnage, with their largest engine, the Audi 4.2-litre ABH V8, not being suitable for either Rolls-Royce or Bentley cars. On July 4, 1998, Volkswagen completed its purchase of Rolls-Royce Motorcars Limited, but the matter of the Rolls-Royce trademark remained a contentious topic, though Vickers plc commented that the old deal giving the Rolls-Royce engine company the right to veto a foreign purchase of Rolls-Royce motorcars was unenforceable under current European Union law. Nevertheless, Volkswagen chairman Ferdinand Piëch declared in a statement that he was committed to building this business in a manner consistent with its character and heritage, while also hoping that Volkswagen and Vickers would soon be able to close the related deal to buy Cosworth Engineering as a means of sidestepping the issue of BMW terminating its engine supply deal within 12 months. Cosworth, in the form of Cosworth Racing Incorporated and Cosworth Engineering Incorporated, would eventually fall into the hands of Audi on July 27, 1998, while the race engine division, Cosworth Racing, and its electronics division, Pi Research, was sold to Ford, but even with the acquisition of Cosworth, the Volkswagen Group could not develop a suitable V12 within a year for the Silver Seraph, the largest Cosworth engine available being the second-generation 3-litre V10, but this was a Formula One power plant that was too unrefined for luxury car use. However, the following day, on July 28th, Rolls-Royce announced that it would allow BMW the rights to use the company's name and marque at a cost of £40 million, thus allowing BMW the ability to form their own Rolls-Royce car firm, though these rights did not extend to the Bentley marque, as this had been procured wholesale by the Rolls-Royce car company in 1931. With Volkswagen having failed to procure the rights to the Rolls-Royce marque, July 29, 1998 would see the company capitulate, with a press conference held in London resulting in an agreement being reached between Ferdinand Piëch and Bernd Pichetsrieder that Volkswagen would be allowed to maintain the exclusive rights to the Rolls-Royce name until December 31, 2002, at which time the Rolls-Royce name and Spirit of Ecstasy emblem would be handed to BMW. The result was a humiliating defeat for Volkswagen, as against their own input of £430 million, BMW had won the true prize of Rolls-Royce for only £40 million, which was considered by analysts as an absolute steal, allowing the company enough capital to develop their own brand new factory for the construction of Rolls-Royce cars, while leaving Volkswagen and Bentley at the comparatively aging Crewe facility. However, the outcome of the deal was not an overall failure for Volkswagen, as thanks to the revival of the Bentley marque during the 1980s, it now accounted for 70% of sales for the Rolls-Royce Motorcars company by 1998, with the Bentley Arnage, Azure and Continental forming a vast range of luxury machines with a sporting edge, while Rolls-Royce's only offerings was the Silver Seraph and the upcoming Corniche 5. As such, the next 5 years would see a complicated transition from the unified Rolls-Royce and Bentley company to two separate brands, with BMW lifting their threat of removing engine support for the Silver Seraph and Arnage, but would require the Arnage to be retrofitted with Rolls-Royce's classic 6.75-litre V8 for onward usage after the divorce of the two firms in 2002. Similarly, as the design rights to the Silver Seraph and Arnage were the property of the Rolls-Royce Motorcars company, now under Volkswagen ownership, BMW could not continue production of the Silver Seraph beyond the 2002 cut-off date, thus meaning that this car, after over a decade of development, would prove to have one of the shortest production runs in Rolls-Royce's company history, though its underpinnings would survive in Bentley form until 2010. Meanwhile, Rolls-Royce constructed its new factory at Chichester in southern England, while at the same time developing their new Phantom model that would be the very face of modern luxury, as a means of fighting back against the latest ultra-luxurious offering from Mercedes-Benz, the revived Maybach that was due for launch in April 2002. Thus, the final Rolls-Royce to be built at the traditional Crewe factory rolled off the assembly line on August 30th, 2002. That being a Corniche 5 with chassis number 2079, while the new Rolls-Royce Phantom 7 saw its official launch at 1 minute past midnight on January 1st, 2003 at Goodwood, the first day of the newly divorced and fully separated Rolls-Royce from Bentley under BMW ownership. With BMW as custodian, Rolls-Royce would see a significant resurgence as the premier luxury marque of motoring, with the Phantom being company flagship available for buyers all over the world, while the Ghost provided a more affordable offering beneath, the Wraith and its convertible Spectre offered a performance-orientated coupe, and the Cullinan would be the firm's first SUV. Bentley, on the other hand, sought to lean into its pedigree of racing and sports performance with the luxury edge, through the release of the 2003 Continental GT, while the Arnage and later Mulsanne maintained high-end saloons until 2020, whereupon they were replaced by the Flying Spur, with Bentley also introducing the Bentayga in 2015, also as the company's first SUV offering. In the end, the procurement of Rolls-Royce by BMW proved to be one of the strangest and most complex automotive takeovers in British history, with the original winner of the bidding war being set to lose overall, but in their own turn, both companies would transform the Rolls-Royce and Bentley marques back into market leaders for ultra-luxury driving and affluent performance respectively.